I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Kaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video. Mythology is a realm swarming with strange creatures. Most people agree that none of them are real. There is no Minotaur, nor is there a Chimera. As for the Griffin, well, that's where things get complicated. And so we reach the end of Titanic Creation's first wave of original kaiju figures. We have another villain to round out this quartet, an alien beast known as Griffixis. Once again, Griffixis comes in one of the new clear boxes issued for Scaraeus and the recolored Titanicus, but I already spoke about that in the Scaraeus review. In short, the box looks cool and is a good option for collectors who like to keep their figures in mint condition. But nuts to that, I want this figure out of the box for proper display, so now that he's out, let's get a closer look. I've made a point of noting what kinds of kaiju each TC creature is, stating that Titanicus is traditional, Nosferodon is non-traditional, and Scaraeus is a mashup. How then would I classify Griffixis? Having given it some thought, I would say Griffixis is a twist kaiju. What does that mean? It means you take a familiar design, something the audience might recognize, and you twist it in some way to make it stranger and more menacing. Think of King Ghidorah. He's recognizable as a dragon, but his design is distinct because of the different twists thrown in, like the shape of his wings, his odd number of appendages, and his otherworldly origins. For Griffixis, the base model is a griffin, a mythological creature that is half eagle and half lion, but reimagined in a way that makes him look oddly alien. Indeed, the design does a very good job translating the concept into something that feels new without losing the original idea of emulating a legendary beast. It's in those details, though, that the figure gets really interesting. Overall, the body has a recognizable leonine profile with a barrel chest and whip-like tail, and the feet have texturing which invokes eagle talons. The wings give us our first clue that something's not quite right about this kaiju. Rather than the traditional feathery wings, these are odd membranes laced by asymmetrical veiny lines, and the nasty-looking spikes convey aggression. The spines running down the back are also unexpectedly odd. They're not sharp spikes like we might expect, but instead have rounded, bulbous edges, and the flesh covering them seems stretched and somewhat decayed, as though they did not develop properly. Speaking of development, though, I'd like to temporarily highlight the hind legs. Many quadrupedal kaiju have a posture known to fans as kaiju crawl, where they walk on their knees as opposed to their feet. This is because said kaiju are portrayed by people in suits, which means they must adhere to the human form, so the crawl is inevitable. Since Griffixis is a figure, though, he doesn't need to conform to a humanoid shape, and so his legs are the sort you would expect to see in a proper quadrupedal stance. It makes him stand out among the four-legged titans in a good way. When we reach the head, the true alienness of Griffixis becomes undeniable. The swept-back ears and hooked beak are still recognizable as griffin features, but the rest is bizarre and creepy. 8 eyes with dead stares are placed oddly on each side of the face, the tongue is narrow and sharp, and the jowls have unsettling gaps as though the mouth, like the spines, never finished forming. It's a weird, almost Lovecraftian take on a griffin, and despite being relatively straightforward, it's still very effective. When it comes to articulation, I would say Griffixis is a back-to-basics figure, meaning he has more in common with Titanicus than Scaraeus on that front. There are only 5 points of articulation, found on all 4 limbs and the tail. The 2 forelegs can move back and forth, but can't achieve full rotation due to the sculpt of the body. The hind legs, meanwhile, have rotational joints that allow for a full 360-degree turn. Similar movement is found in the tail. Speaking of the tail, I noticed some tiny holes running down one side of it, the kind usually indicative of a wire that allows for bending, but this tail feels pretty solid, so I don't think that's the case.
Maybe it was planned but scrapped late in the production process.
Getting into the nitty-gritty of the details, the word of the day is contrast. Griffixis is all about the stark contrasting of features.
Take the color, for example. I suspect a lot of people will be nicknaming this guy the Bumblebee Kaiju because of how the only colors on him are yellow and black. Yellow is the dominant color, very bright with a few gradient parts here and there to emphasize his musculature, and this is broken up by strategic portions of flat black that invoke a feeling of death, especially since it's applied to the tongue and veins. The wings also have a slight translucency to the top half, while the bottom half appears totally clear, thus adding a strange layering effect. The only place where the contrast feels a bit off is on the tail, which is completely black and attaches to the yellow body with no paint gradient between them. Now, comparing that to the illustration on the box, that's technically accurate. Griffixis' tail does just become black with no gradual fade from yellow.
Even if it is baked into the design, it just serves to emphasize the fact that it's a separate piece from the rest of the figure.
It's probably because it's just a flat line separating them. If we look at where the black portions of the wings attach, we see organic seams that make the sharp contrast easier on the eyes. Maybe if something like that had been done with the tail, it would have looked a bit better.
Well, that's what I would have done anyway. Now, normally this is the part of the video where I'd get into character analysis, since the Kaiju of Titanic creations are meant to be actual characters, not just cool designs. However, I can't say that much about Griffixis at the moment.
Griffixis doesn't come with an origin comic, and the website doesn't provide much to go on. He's apparently a kind of weaponized alien virus unleashed on Earth, and Nosferadon is his mortal enemy, as hinted in Nosferadon's origin comic, but that's about all that can be gleaned at this point. It seems that information about this kaiju is being kept secret.
Heck, he doesn't even have a figure trailer like the other three do. Though he does have a trailer comprised of comic book panels.
These images are taken from Soul War, an upcoming graphic novel that will feature the entire Titanic Creations lineup and delve deeper into their origins, personalities, and place in the grand design. Maybe that's the reason our villains don't have their own solo comics yet. Based on the preview images posted on Facebook, this comic looks like it will be quite epic.
Heck, just the poster of the cover art is enough to get me really intrigued, but I really should stay focused.
What about my initial theory about the kaiju having connections to the 7 deadly sins? Well, even with the limited information, the evidence is compelling. What information we have paints Griffixis as a pathogen that absorbs or consumes, and this image from the Soul War trailer emphasizes the monster's mouth as it appears to be eating someone. These signs point to gluttony, though depending on what it does with the absorbed material, it might also indicate envy. Only time will tell which one is correct, if indeed this theory holds any water at all. The final word on Griffixis is that he's a worthy addition to the line. He may not be the most intricately designed or posable, but he still has an eye-catching appearance.
How he functions as a character remains to be seen, but I'm sure it'll be something that matches his bizarre complexion. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni viewer signing off. Okay, that's the whole set. Now we wait to see what the future holds.
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books, Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.